Hello, boys and girls. This is Grandma Priscilla again with another story. And this story is a true story. It happened when I was a little girl. I was probably around 7 years old when it happened. But I remember it vividly because I got to ride in a train. And that was the first time I'd ever ridden in a train. In fact, it's the only time I've ever ridden a train. And it's not a train like you see on television nowadays. It was an old freight train that you would probably see in an old western, but it had a caboose on it. And if you don't know what a caboose is, it's the last car on a train a long time ago. It was the last car on the train, and it was painted red, and it had seats in it, and it also had a bell on it, on the top of it, so that they could ring it if they needed help or trouble, if there was trouble. But that's what we had to ride in. I had gone to Cincinnati with my grandmother to visit my aunt, which was her daughter, and my daddy, who was working up there and staying with my aunt while he worked there. And we had gone up there for a week or two to visit, and we had an enjoyable visit. But when it was time to come home, the only way we had to get home was to ride the train. And we rode to a place close to our home, and then Mother was going to come over and pick us up to take us home. So we had to board the train. It was in Cincinnati that we boarded the train. And we boarded it at night. So that was a little scary to me because I was slightly afraid of the dark when I was little. And so we got on the train, and it was just us, my grandma and me, and one other lady. And every now and then there was the guy that worked on the train. He would come through, the conductor, I guess. That's what they called him anyway. And he would come through and maybe talk to them or see if there was anything they needed or something. And then he would go on. So in this train, it was scary and lonely for me because there was no other kids to talk to and just my grandma and this other woman. Well, that other woman talked all the time, and her name was Miss Miller. And my grandma was a little bit shy, I guess, and she didn't really want to talk much. She just wanted to maybe rest and think about, getting home. But Miss Miller kept talking and talking and talking. And I would try to talk to my grandma, and I couldn't because Miss Miller kept talking. She would never hush. And so we were getting very tired. And we were getting very tired of Miss Miller talking. So anyway, she talked and she talked and she talked, and my grandma tried to figure out a way to keep her from talking so much, and she would tell her she was tired and we needed to rest, but Miss Miller kept talking. So anyway, we went for a long ways. I don't know what state we were in. I think we were somewhere in Kentucky when this happened, up close to Ohio. But there was a big, long railroad bridge that went over across a deep ravine between two mountains. And the train tore up right in the middle of that bridge. Now, I don't like to be up very high, and I really didn't like to be in that kind of dark caboose. And I was a little scared because there weren't any other people around. So, me being a kid and decided I wanted to look and see what was going on, I looked out the window, and there was enough moonlight to show me that it was a long, long way down and that we were in the middle of the bridge. And they were out working on the conductor had come back and told us they were going to have to work on the bridge for a while, and they didn't know how long it would be, so we could be there all night. And I was kind of afraid of heights, and I was afraid that the train would fall off of the bridge and it would kill me and my grandma. So I worried about that. Well, my grandma had taught me to pray, and so I prayed that we would be safe and that all would be okay. And I tried to rest, but I couldn't. Miss Miller talked, and she talked, and she talked. And my grandma tried to rest, and she couldn't because Miss Miller talked and talked and talked. All night long she talked. But finally, somewhere early in the morning, I felt a jerk in the train, and it started to move. So they got it fixed, and it started to slowly move, and it finally got all the way across that bridge and on regular track on down there. And it was probably 3 or 4 hours before we actually got home or got to our place where we were going to get off of the train. And then Mother came and picked us up and drove us home and took us to our house. But it was a scary night, and it was real early in the morning when we finally got home. And my grandma saw she could talk about Miss Miller, she wouldn't hush. And so we always had a joke in our family after that about Miss Miller. We would always get tickled about her talking all night. And as I grew up and got older, I realized that Miss Miller was probably scared herself, and she was talking because she was scared and didn't want us to know it. But anyway, that's my adventure of being on a train, and my first and only train ride. Have you ever ridden on a train? That'd be exciting to know about. Well, you have pleasant dreams, and I'll see you next time, okay? Bye.